Let's do the thing that we do here. Let's talk Lions.
Woo!
Welcome back. For anybody new, my name is Jay. For anybody returning, my name is still Jay. Good to be here. Free agency period is now. It's funny because over the last years, my wife has been in grad school, and this is always like the week that I took off because we would go away for her spring break. So this is really the first year since I've been doing the channel in like 4 or 5 years that I am home for free agency, which is really exciting to be able to kind of watch everything going on, see what's happening, relay it to you, give you my thoughts, my initial feelings, and where I see the Lions going. Now, with all that being said, if there's one thing we've discovered in the last 4 years during Holmes and Campbell's era of reign, it's that we're not going to make the big splash. Myles Garrett will not be coming to Detroit. As much as you and I are dreaming about it, as much as I might be at work editing and I'm thinking to myself, what would it look like to see 95, to see him in Honolulu blue? It would look good, but it ain't gonna happen. It's just, as much as he wants to go to a Super Bowl team, Detroit doesn't seem like it's gonna be it. We're not the big spenders. We're not the big splash free agency squad. We haven't been for 4 years, and I don't see that changing. Prove me wrong, but I do not see that changing with Holmes and with Myles Garrett this year. Do I think that gives us that next leap defensively to get us past the NFC divisional round, past the NFC championship game? Yeah, I do. But at $125 million, a first round this year, first round next year, I don't know. I don't know about that. Now, I did see that Cincinnati's Trey Hendrickson has requested a trade from Cincy, and I would love to get that guy here in Detroit. He's a dude, his production, he was a guy when we got Zadarius Smith that I kept playing on my mind of, that's a guy I would love here. But they were obviously in the hunt for playoffs at the point, and quite frankly, they messed up by what, a half a game? And they didn't want to get rid of Trey Hendrickson at that point. Since he's got a whole slew of problems with T. Higgins, with Jamar Chase, with Hendrickson, so him requesting out just makes sense. But I wanted to I was looking at a list of our free agents, and it's long. I'm looking at it via the Pride of Detroit website, great guys, highly recommend all of their stuff. They're just great. They're great. And I'm looking at this list, and quite frankly, I don't see us keeping half of these dudes, if not 3/4 of them. Over the last couple of years, we've been signing guys like Khalif Raymond, Alex Anzalone, just extending those contracts. But this year, when I look down this list, and it's Teddy Bridgewater, Craig Reynolds, Jamar Jefferson, Shane Zylstra, Tim Patrick, Allen Robinson, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Dan Skipper, Zeitler, Davenport, Onzarike Cominsky, Williams, Pat O'Connor, Miles Adams, Derek Barnes, Anthony Pittman, Quan Alexander, Carlton Davis, Vildor. We're going to stop on that one and then just move forward. Dorsey, Mosley, Melifonwu, and Badgley. Holy smokes, do we have a list of unsigned free agents, unsigned guys who are going to hit that free agency market. And quite frankly, if I look down this list, 3 that I want to keep. 3 that I want to keep, absolute. Actually, you know what? Let's save that for last. Let's start with, who do I want to see go? Vildor. Listen, man, seems like a good dude, and he puts in a lot of work, but that work isn't paying off. He ain't the guy. It's time to cut Vildor and move on. Just call it quits. It ain't working. It ain't working here, and that's okay. That's fine. Maybe it'll work somewhere else, but not here in Detroit. All I can see is that ball bouncing off of his face mask into Ayuk's hands on repeat. That's all I can see. That's all I can see. I mean, there's other stuff I could talk about too, but I ain't going to do it. I'm not going to do the guy dirty like that. One guy that I would love to see us let walk, and maybe it's me believing in our running backs room too much in Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, it has to be Jamar Jefferson. I think at this point, it's time. We've tried to work him in there. We've seen him on the practice squad. There's nothing that I've noticed that I'm like, this guy is a dog. Whereas Craig Reynolds has gotten significantly better in his tenure in Detroit. Significantly better, laying blocks, finding the open hole whenever we get him out there, when Montgomery went down. Now, do you hold on to a guy like Jefferson in the practice squad? Yeah, sure, fine. This way, in case we go down the list, we start losing dudes. But for the most part, man, I don't see enough out of Jamar Jefferson that I look and I'm like, we got to keep this guy around. Guys that I look at that I'm like, we got to keep around, Dan Skipper. Dan Skipper is an immediate number one. Keep that man. Also, Zeitler. These two O linemen, I think Zeitler kind of flew under the radar for a lot of Lions fans. I think he just sort of flew under the radar. People didn't realize how incredible he was, Pro Bowl caliber all season long. And him, what was it, 11, 12-year vet at that point when he was coming from Baltimore, instrumental on our O-line. John Cominsky is another guy that I think the Lions have to find a way to keep here. His season was cut short by not even entering this season last year, preseason. You heard it, I think it was it his Achilles or his ACL? Let me know in the comments, I forget. So I think it was the ACL, blows that out right before the season in a preseason game, and you're like, man, after what he was coming off of the season before, to see him not even be able to play a single snap, and there began our woes defensively last year, especially at the edge position, the D-line. But I think for me, bring Cominsky back, Davenport let walk, and Onwuzurike is another guy that I think the Lions, I don't think we're done testing the waters with Onwuzurike. Levi Onwuzurike's had all those back issues, but last year he finally got the most playing time. He finally got out on the field, and we saw what he was capable of. He was capable of a lot. He was incredible. There were moments where you look at him and you see these flashes of incredible. He struggled. First real season. I'm pretty sure he went down to injury late in the season. It's all a blur. Having a baby made this season a blur. Whatever happened week 6 probably happened week 13. Oh, wait. Hutch? Okay, yeah. I think that Onwuzurike is a guy that he's a project worth working on still. I don't think it's time to let him walk. 3 last guys on the list. Somebody to let walk, Michael Badgley. Hey, man. We got Jake Bates. That's all I got to say about that. From there, last 2 guys. Carlton Davis and Ifeatu Melifonwu. Carlton Davis had a really good year. Carlton Davis busted his butt for Detroit, listening to him talk about Dan Campbell and his love for Campbell, basically saying Campbell's one of the best coaches I've ever had, expressing why. But Carlton Davis was really good on the field. I just think the money that he's asking for and that he's going to be wanting after coming from Tampa, now coming here, I don't know if Detroit's going to be willing to pay it, especially while we are going to be in the market for an edge rusher and having to pay guys like Aidan Hutchinson, Kerby Joseph, forgetting the third off the top of my head, but we got guys to pay. Lions got guys to pay. Hutch, we're paying them. Kerby Joseph, we're paying them. It's just a matter of time. It's Jamo, third one. Boom. Found it. I knew it was rattling up here somewhere. Jamo's got to have a heck of a season if he wants to get paid and be that wide receiver 2 here in Detroit. He's got to have a heck of a season, and I think he will. I think it's time. You know, we use him in a lot of trickery and things like that, but he's not a free agent, so we're not talking about him. But if we want to pay these guys, you want to pay Hutch, you want to pay Kerb, you want to pay Jamo, you want to pay Brian Branch next year, you gotta let a guy like Carlton Davis walk. And that's a bummer because I actually really like him. I liked him as a person. I like what he brought to the team, the chemistry. But if you want to pay him, pay the other boys. Can't pay him. I don't see that all flying. And lastly is Ifeatu Melifonwu. Keep him. Do what we got to do to keep Iffy. Iffy is one of those underrated guys where 2 seasons ago you saw him absolutely explode. You saw him pop off. That game against Denver, man, he was forcing fumbles. He was getting in the way. What he offered, he's not a guy to let go. It's like what I expect from Levi Onwuzurike is what Ifeatu Melifonwu is doing. Does that make sense? Like what Onwuzurike has gone through with his injuries and not being stable enough to play yet, that's where Iffy has shone brightly. That's where he is done. Now, he got hurt last year, and we didn't see him for quite a bit. But when we do see him, you see those flashes of this guy's a baller, especially if you're going to let Carlton Davis walk, if you're going to let Emmanuel Mosley, Khalil Dorsey, Vildor. Obviously, Iffy as a DB rather than just the playing cornerback, but I think Iffy offers something to this team that we are not done with yet and that he could progress even further, especially coming off that injury. So when I look at this list, it's going to be crazy over the next couple of days, seeing who the Lions re-sign, who we don't re-sign, who hits the practice squad. Because how many times do you go through free agency and then you get that 90-man roster, you cut, practice squad, whatever. The long and the short of it is, I don't want to let Iffy go. I don't really see us being able to keep Carlton Davis. Some of these other guys, I don't want to let Cominsky go. I don't want to let Onwuzurike go. Derek Barnes is going to be a very interesting one because, man, he was starting to pop off too. I think we keep him, especially because our linebacker room is a little edgy. But, man, Zeitler, can't let him go. Dan Skipper, don't let him go. When I look at the wide receiver list, Tim Patrick, Allen Robinson, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think Robinson and Peoples-Jones are gone. Tim Patrick will be interesting, but he might be asking for too much, more than we are willing to pay. Teddy Bridgewater's on this list. Remember when we signed him for like a day? And then he showed up and he goes in when Goff got hurt. Honestly, we probably shouldn't have put Goff back in. We probably should have given Goff a little bit more time, see really where he was at, and let us just run the rock against Washington. What were we doing? I can't think about that right now. That is it. Those are some of my initial thoughts as we hit this free agency. Brad Holmes, go get Trey Hendrickson. Just go get Hendrickson. Do it. Do it now. 5, 4, 3, 2, do it. Do it. Give me the power, Michael. What's that from? Drop it into the comments. Let me know. It's a great quote. But do you even remember it? Some of you probably aren't even old enough to have ever seen that. That hurts. Can't say that. Anyways, yikes. That's it. It's cold in this garage. I don't know if you can see that.